ਸਰੀ ਸ਼ੈਰਟਨ ਗਿਲਫੋਰਡ ਹੋਟਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ opposition leader, Conservative Party leader, newly elected in September 2022, Pierre Poilievre will be walking in shortly to address Surrey Board of Trade for his inaugural speech here with Surrey Board of Trade, and we will streaming it live shortly. So leader will be here. Thank you.
So everyone, thank you so much for attending this afternoon. And just a reminder, if you do not want your photo taken, please let the Board of Trade staff know. We do use photos for both internal and external publications. I'm Anita Huberman. I'm CEO of the Surrey Board of Trade. I'm an honorary captain of the Royal Canadian Navy. And let's give another great Surrey welcome to Mr. Pierre Poilievre. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are on the traditional and unceded territory of our Coast Salish peoples, specifically the Kwantlen, Katzie, Semiahmoo, Tawasin, Kaikut, Coquitlam, Inuit, and Métis peoples. They have a profound connection to our city of Surrey, and they are an amazing part of our economic development today and tomorrow. I'd like to say that today is Indigenous Veterans Day, and we honor the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis of Canada, who have a long and profound tradition of military service to our great nation of Canada. When the Second World War erupted in September 1939, many Indigenous people again answered the call of duty and joined the military. By March 1940, more than 100 of them had volunteered, and by the end of the conflict in 1945, over 3,000 First Nation members, as well as an unknown number of Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous recruits had served in uniform. Yes. Thank you so much to our Indigenous communities. And I'm an honorary captain, as I mentioned, of the Royal Canadian Navy. There's 40 of us in the country that are ambassadors of our great Navy. And we are going to have an amazing announcement related to the Royal Canadian Navy right here in our great city of Surrey. And I'd also like to welcome and congratulate the new mayor of the city of Surrey, Brenda Locke. Welcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, today's event simply would not happen without corporate sponsorship. Thank you so much to our presenting sponsor, the Super Save Group. Thank you so much. Our progress partners of the Surrey Board of Trade are BDC, the Business Development Bank of Canada, the Chambers of Commerce Group Insurance Plan, represented by SNF Benefits, Scotiabank, the law firm of Fasken, and of course, Western Community College. Thank you so much. Some special guests that I'd like to recognize that are in the audience today are the Honorable Yona Martin, Senator and Deputy Leader of the Opposition in the Senate. Thank you for attending, Yona. Mark Dalton, MP for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge. The amazing Carrie Lynn Finley, MP for South Surrey, White Rock. Tracy Gray, MP for Kelowna, Lake Country. Takeo Von Papta, MP for Langley Aldergrove. Brad Viss, MP for Mission Matsqui Fraser Canyon. Bob Zimmer, MP for Prince George, Peace River, and the Northern Rockies. Michael DeYoung, MLA for Abbotsford West. And Surrey City Councillor Linda Annis. I'd also like to recognize former Senator Jerry St. Germain is in the house as well. Thank you so much. I'd also like to welcome our Surrey Board of Trade Board Directors, Rick Mann from the Isle of Man Construction Group. He's chair of our development team. Raj Sidhu from Colliers International. Mike Speece from Scotiabank. He's chair of our social policy workforce team. Doug Tennant, who's our past chair and with Unity, and also part of our social policy and workforce team. A round of applause for them. So everyone, the Surrey Board of Trade, we are one of the top 10 largest chambers of commerce boards of trades in Canada. There's 430 of us. We have 6,000 member contacts. Our whole mandate is to support business and bring business into Surrey. Surrey is going to be the largest city in British Columbia. Surrey is an opportunity city, and we need to ensure that it is the private sector that is driving the economy forward. We have amazing, yes. We have amazing economic assets. We need to ensure that all levels of government are partners with the private sector to drive our nation, our city, our province forward. To tell you more about Surrey and the Surrey Board of Trade, please turn your attention to the screen. As one of the fastest growing cities in Canada, Surrey is an opportunity city. The Surrey Board of Trade is the concierge of connections.
Rick Mann from IOM Property Group. I'm a Director of Development and Construction. We rely on the Surrey Board of Trade for a lot of advocacy and research that we don't actively go out and find. Really, like there's things on there that I had no idea about, and I get the email, I get the web link, and it really affects us in a big way.
The Surrey Board of Trade is focused on making Surrey an opportunity city by instigating change at the different levels of government, offering a variety of business support services, international trade support services, and being the concierge of connections for the business community in Surrey.
My name is Rowena Rosati. I'm the Vice President of Healthcare and Innovation here at the Health and Technology District by the Lark Group. We focus on a lot of health and technologies and how we can bring different technologies and innovative healthcare solutions into the hands of clinicians. So there's a tremendous amount of information and support that Surrey Board of Trade offers to these companies, and it's an opportunity for me to be able to translate what the Surrey Board of Trade is doing for some of those companies and helping those companies to succeed.
If it's in the agricultural sector or in the retail sector, if they're needing a government connection, if they have an issue related to government, we are there for them. And we have a proven track record of success to ensure that businesses are helped when they need it in a timely way.
You know, the Surrey Board of Trade it's a great organization because anybody who is involved in that organization wants to be a more proactive member of the community. So having an opportunity to connect and network with those individuals helps our business become better.
So the Surrey Board of Trade offers an immense amount of support for businesses at all levels, including entrepreneurs and startup businesses. There are resources that help a business that they wouldn't necessarily be able to afford to contract on their own, and it allows those to be accessible, sometimes free of cost. It also creates opportunities for networking.
Whether you're a new business that's just opening up shop in Surrey, Surrey Board of Trade has to be one of your top destinations. It will connect you with a lot of the great minds in the organization, a lot of great minds in the community that can help.
So whether you're a small business or a medium-sized business or a large business, starting out or expanding, we have the connections. We have the resources to ensure that you have what you need during your journey as an entrepreneur. I now welcome Danielle Johannes, Director of Sales, and Luc Vanderkorkove of Super Save Group, for our presenting sponsor representatives, to come forward to say a few words. Please help me welcome them.
I love seeing that fencing in the video there. That was excellent. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to the Chamber for having us here today. Honorable Pierre Poilievre, very nice to meet you, and may I say that your modern free market positions are resonating with us at the group. I'll just say a few words about Super Save's history. The Super Save Group started right here back in 1977, starting with a single retail gas station. Through hard work and a never-ending pursuit to improve customer service, the group has grown, servicing communities throughout Canada, from Vancouver Island to Montreal. The Super Save Group offers a wide variety of services, including retail gas locations, waste and recycling collection, secure document destruction, temporary fence and toilet rentals, propane delivery and heater rentals, and our newest divisions, hydro excavation, and street sweeping, all servicing a wide range of industries, including construction, commercial, industrial, residential, municipal, and provincial. Through all of our divisions, Super Save uses cutting-edge fleet technology to ensure on-time, accurate, efficient service, always striving to exceed our customers' expectations. The Super Save Group is core and NAID certified and puts the safety of its people, customers, and community at the center of everything that it does. Thank you. I'll hand it over to Danielle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luc. I have seen substantial growth throughout the 17 years I've had the pleasure of working at Super Save. We have diversified into new lines of business as well as entered new markets. But one of the areas we've grown significantly in is in our private sector customer base. Part of my role at Super Save is to manage our major accounts department, which deals with all of our government, municipal, and provincial contracts, including many cities, school districts, and educational institutions. We currently work with the City of Surrey, supporting their special events with portable fence rentals, and in the past have also provided portable toilet services as well as waste disposal services. In 2016, we were awarded the contract with the Surrey School District, and currently we provide waste, recycling, and organics services to over 130 schools, supplying them with 425 bins. In the Lower Mainland, we also provide the same services to the Richmond, Langley, and Delta school districts. Our very first major account in our disposal division was actually the Township of Langley back in 2001 when we were awarded the contract, and without interruption have been awarded multiple agreements after the first one and currently are still on site providing them with services, but have expanded our offerings to include single stream, cardboard, and organics recycling.
Thank you so much, the Super Save Group, for your sponsorship this afternoon. And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to introduce your keynote speaker for this special occasion. He is a lifelong conservative, champion of the free market, and a proud Canadian. His vision is clear. He wants to make Canada the freest nation on earth. He wants to put Canadians back in control of their lives. He believes that hard work should be rewarded. He has served as a trusted senior cabinet minister to Stephen Harper. He served as a member of parliament for 7 terms. He now serves as the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada and His Majesty's loyal opposition. He lives in Ontario with his wife, Anita, and their children, Valentina and Cruz. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome the Honorable Pierre Poilievre.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much, Anita. She called me a few weeks ago and said, Pierre, I have a very important question on behalf of the Surrey Board of Trade. Do you believe in free speech? I said, of course. She said, how would you like to give one? And that's how I ended up here today. And thank you very much for the invitation. It's great to be back in beautiful British Columbia. I'm a born and raised Albertan. And so, of course, BC is Alberta's playground. When we were kids, we'd go camping in the Okanagan. We'd come visit Vancouver. We get to see what water looks like. Not a lot of lakes around Calgary. I always felt like this was a real land of possibility. When I grew up, I was adopted. So I was born to a 16-year-old single mom, and she couldn't raise me, so she put me up for adoption to 2 school teachers. And they always taught me that it didn't matter where I came from. It mattered where I was going. It didn't matter who I knew, but what I could do. And that was always what I loved so much about Canada. But lately, it hasn't felt that way. It feels a lot like our country has become the place that can't get anything done. And here we are with 40-year highs in inflation, 1/5 of Canadians skipping meals and cutting back on portions because they can't afford the price of food. Fuel prices have doubled. 35-year-olds live in their parents' basements because they can't afford a home. You know, I was in Vancouver and I used that example, and I actually asked the crowd, if you are 35 living in your mom's basement, as are so many Vancouverites, how do you bring home a date? And there was an elderly lady in the crowd who yelled out, very carefully. But seriously, imagine the psychological impact it has. If you are 35, you can't own a home, means you can't build up credit history, collateral, home equity for your eventual retirement. You can't have a family if you don't have a house to raise them in. And this is in the country with, I think, the 5th most land per capita of any nation on earth. We have more land where there's no one than we have land where there is anyone, and yet we can't find a way to house all of our people. And then we can't get energy projects done. Here we are importing 130,000 barrels of overseas oil every single day, even though we have the third biggest supply right here at home. According to the OECD, we have the 2nd slowest building permits of any of the OECD countries. We're only slightly ahead of the Slovak Republic. But the average building permit in Canada takes 250 days to procure. In South Korea, it is about 26 days. So you get a permit there 10 times faster than you get one here in Canada. Here in Vancouver, or nearby in Vancouver, sorry, Vancouver's in the greater Surrey region, of course. It's a small town nearby. Anyway, the port is ranked 368th out of 340 ports around the world, according to the World Bank. This is incredible here in Canada that we are failing to perform on so many of these levels. This week, I was at a sweet shop, a Punjabi sweet shop, and the owner took me up next door to his restaurant. Beautiful restaurant. beautifully furnished, decorated, wonderful chandeliers hang from the ceiling, and one problem: no people. I looked around, it was like a ghost town. It was like something out of one of those, you know, those movies about a post-apocalyptic period when there's been a nuclear attack and all the people have been wiped out, but all of their infrastructure remains. And you walk into a beautiful restaurant and it's decorated and the plates are there, the cutlery is set, but there's no one to eat, dine, or to serve the non-existent customers. That's what it was like. And I said, what's the problem here? And he said, well, I can't get cooks. I said, well, why don't you bring in more cooks? You know, there's lots of cooks in India who understand how to put together the great recipes of the Punjab and serve them here to the population. He says, well, the problem is that it takes something like 4 years to process the applications for work permits. And on top of that, to add insult to injury, he had timed his plans to build a greenhouse so that he could grow his beautiful tomatoes and herbs and spices and garlic and bring it from his own greenhouse over to the restaurant. But fortunately, he didn't make that investment, which would not have been profitable because he doesn't have an active restaurant at which to serve it. The reason he didn't make the investment is because the municipal bureaucracy still hasn't approved his permit to build the greenhouse. And so he can't build the greenhouse, he can't get cooks for his kitchen, he can't get started. Meanwhile, there are people who love to be dining at his restaurant, and there are waitresses and other support staff who could have jobs if the governments at the various levels would get out of the way and give him his permits and give him his cooks and let him get started. As I said, we have become the gatekeeper economy, where there are countless gatekeepers who stand in the way of people achieving their dreams and their goals. We are, of course, a nation of immigrants here in British Columbia. We have countless immigrants who've come to build the country, but many are prevented from working in their own professions because they can't get a permit to practice in regulated fields like medicine. And meanwhile, we have shortages for doctors and nurses, another gatekeeper effect. So what's the solution? The solution is we need to stop stopping and start starting in this country again. And that's the kind of prime minister I want to be. I want to unleash the full potential of our nation by getting the government out of the way and off your back and by your side. So what does that mean in practical sense? Let's start with housing. In Vancouver, the cost of government baked into the average house, that is permits, delays, zoning changes, consultants, development charges, taxes, is $650,000 per unit of housing. That has helped make Vancouver the third most overpriced housing market on planet Earth, more expensive than Singapore, Manhattan, London, England, other places with more money and people and a lot less land. And so we need to get these government gatekeepers out of the way so that we can build more homes. How are we going to do it? I know it's a municipal issue, but the federal government provides a lot of money for infrastructure to cities. So a Poilievre government will link the number of dollars big overpriced cities get to the number of houses that actually get built, so that we incentivize municipal bureaucracies and politicians to speed up and lower the cost of building permits. I will sell off 15% of the 37,000 federal buildings so we can convert those buildings into affordable housing for our young people. In other words, we need to print less money and build more homes. We need to, thank you. And we need to speed up immigration of people who can help us build those homes. We have a skill shortage in the skilled trades. Yet we have 2.6 million immigrants waiting to come here. Many of them are tradespeople. I went to A1 Trusses with Brad Viss just yesterday. They build trusses, which you need for homes, but they don't have workers to pound the 2x4s together and shape those trusses. So we need is to have a skilled trades special stream that can be expedited so we can bring in those skilled workers, or not necessarily having a skilled designation, but that are in high demand, that have a job offer, and have an employer who's standing by to pay them who cannot find a Canadian to fill that work. Then when they get here, we need to expedite their conversion from temporary foreign worker into permanent resident to keep them here permanently so that we permanently fill the gaps we have in our labor market, particularly to build things like houses. We need to get the gatekeepers out of the way of our immigrants who are desperately needed in our professions as well. And that is why a Poilievre government will work to sign deals with the provinces who are responsible for regulating the labor market to get a 60-day guarantee. Within 60 days of an immigrant applying to work in their profession, they should get a yes or no based on their tested abilities, not based on where they come from. That we should back up 30,000 federally backed up study loans for immigrants who want to take time off work so that they can study up to reach the Canadian standard and work in their profession. They did this in Calgary. A bunch of oilmen signed loan guarantees for new immigrants who were stuck in low-wage jobs but were very close to being licensed in high-wage professions. They couldn't make the leap, though, because they needed 3 months off work in order to do the studying and take the exams. But you can't do that if you're on the verge of being evicted from your apartment because you don't have any money. So they gave them study loans. They left their work for 4 or 5 months. They studied for their exams. They passed their exams and watched their incomes go up by 400, 500, 600% as they went from being a barista or an Uber driver to being a doctor or an engineer in just a very short period of time. A Poilievre government will back up study loans like that so that our immigrants can pole vault into high-demand, high-paying, inflation-proof paychecks in the professions of this country. We're also going to remove the gatekeepers from our energy sector. And here we are importing all this oil from overseas, which means we send dollars abroad. It's one of the reasons why our dollar is so weak right now. It used to be that our dollar would track WTI. When the worldwide oil price would go up, the Canadian dollar would go up relative to the United States. That correlation has been broken. Why? Because our energy sector is a significantly smaller part of our economy now. The result is that our consumers are paying more. When we as consumers bid on internationally priced commodities like oil or grains or natural gas, we pay more when our dollar is worth less. And so all of us as consumers are paying the price for such a weak energy policy by our federal government. We've had the Prime Minister kill 2 major pipelines, the Energy East pipeline, which would have taken 1 million barrels of Western oil to Eastern refineries. He's killed the Northern Gateway pipeline, which was supported by 80% of the First Nations along the route. And yet the Prime Minister vetoed the project after it had previously been approved without even consulting First Nations, killing billions of dollars of opportunity for those communities, including job opportunities that would have lifted countless youth out of poverty and into prosperity. So the Poilievre government will repeal the anti-energy law C-69 and replace it with a new law that consults First Nations, protects our environment, but gets projects built so that we can become truly energy independent in this country. Absolutely. And it's not just oil, it's natural gas. We have 1,300 trillion cubic feet of this stuff right beneath our feet. And we could be exporting it to Asia and to Europe. Look, we have the shortest shipping distance to Asia from anywhere in North America. And we have the shortest shipping distance to Europe from anywhere in North America. And we have the best climate for liquefying natural gas. How do you liquefy a gas? You cool it down. You guys don't know anything about cold weather here. I was surprised you had that answer. And somebody told me that there was snow here last night, but it was gone before I woke up in the morning. That's not snow. That's a hallucination. Okay, it's snow. Snow falls in Ottawa and it doesn't leave for 8 months. So, but anyway, but it does get cold in Ottawa. In fact, it was so cold last winter there were actually Liberals seen with their hands in their own pockets. Sorry, I'm not supposed to be quite that partisan, am I, Anita? I'm going to get into trouble. It's up to me? Okay. Free speech? Excellent. I'll make you a deal. I'll be conservative in my remarks if you're liberal in your applause. Is that okay? Okay, good. Well, listen, but back to natural gas. We have cold weather. We have emissions-free hydroelectricity in Newfoundland, Quebec, British Columbia. What does that mean? We can liquefy natural gas with the lowest emissions of any country on Earth. We can use our cold weather as a 25% energy advantage for liquefying the stuff vis-a-vis the US Gulf Coast, where they have an extra 25 degrees of heat they have to pull out of it. And we can use our emissions-free hydroelectricity in the aforementioned provinces to power the liquefaction facilities. And then we can use our shorter shipping distances to send our gas to Asia to displace dirty coal-fired plants in China and in India, reducing global emissions, and ship our gas from Newfoundland and Quebec over to Europe to displace the natural gas hegemony that Putin has over Europe. In other words, let's break this dependence. Let's turn dollars for dictators into paychecks for our people in this country. And let's do the same for the minerals of the future. You know, for decades, the geopolitical strength that the Gulf states enjoyed because of their preeminence in petroleum is now shifting to China because, of course, they have a major lead on refining rare earth minerals like lithium. And they can do it because they have affordable energy. Here in Canada, we have very expensive energy and we have very slow approval times. As I said, we're one of the slowest places in which to get a building permit. So even though we have among the biggest supplies of lithium on planet Earth, we produced almost none of it in 2019. And so when you see people driving electric cars, those are cars with batteries that would have been supplied through lithium and other minerals that were produced burning coal. Now, the purpose of the electric car is supposedly to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. But if the construction of the car is done burning coal, then by the time that vehicle gets onto the road, it is already responsible for vastly more emissions than a traditional internal combustion engine vehicle. Now, how do we change that? Well, we should mine and refine those minerals here in Canada using our hydroelectricity, but we can only do it if we signal to the marketplace that they can get fast permits. It's not acceptable to tell the world's mining investors that they will have to wait 6 or 7 years to get to a maybe when they can wait 1 year to get to a yes in these other countries. The only way for us to be part of a low emissions transition is for us to speed up, remove the gatekeepers, and get things built. And that will be part of my agenda as well. Yeah. And we need to extend that to information. You know, right now the government is considering Bill C-11, which will give gatekeepers at the CRTC the power to control what you see and say on the internet. This is not just an attack on our freedom of expression, but is an attack on our entrepreneurs. Great cultural entrepreneurs and internet influencers, places like British Columbia, where you have J.J. McAuliffe, who started up a YouTube page and turned it into a personal business. That story would not be possible if he had to rely on the CRTC to determine whether or not he appears in someone's news feed or in their YouTube stream. That this form of censorship will concentrate power among, frankly, central Canadian broadcast corporations who have lobbyists that can influence the CRTC into manipulating social media algorithms and promoting their content above other people's content. But it is a zero-sum game. There is only so much time that people have to watch social media, and as a result, if they're watching more of one thing, they're watching more of less of another. And that means that the government is ultimately going to be pushing down voices that are not favored by the state in order to push up voices that are. This is very dangerous, and according to the social media companies themselves, it is done nowhere on planet Earth outside of Cuba and North Korea. Not the company that we want to keep when it comes to freedom of expression on the internet. So a Poilievre government will repeal this censorship law and restore freedom of expression to the internet so you can decide for yourself. And then we're going to restore sound money in this country. You know, money is just a technology to transfer value over space and time. That's really all it is. It is a low-weight, highly mobile technology that allows you to take today's work and to turn it into tomorrow's reward. And the problem with inflation is that it messes up that technology. It's like pouring coffee on your hard drive. It messes up your computer. Well, if the information signals that money sends about the value of things get messed up by inflation, then our entire economic system goes into disarray. And we're seeing that now. I mean, the government caused this inflation by printing $500 billion of new cash in the last 2 years. One in every $4 in our economy was created in the last 2 years alone. Our money supply has grown in that time by 27%, even while the goods and services in our economy grew by 2.7%. In other words, the money supply outgrew the goods and services that money buys 10 times over. So what does that mean? More dollars bidding up the price of fewer goods always equals higher prices. It has also caused a perilous bubble, particularly in our real estate sector. House prices went up by 50% since the Bank of Canada started this money printing orgy in spring of 2020. And now interest rates are rising to pull back the inflation that they caused in the first place. That means that a lot of households who bought with using variable rate mortgages and adjustable monthly payments are struggling to pay. They're seeing their payments go up by $2,000 a month in some cases. But now the option of just selling the house to pay off the mortgage is gone because house prices are coming down. And we have the perfect hell for both buyer and seller. The cost to the buyer is up even though the price for the seller is down. By the cost, I mean the monthly payment, because the monthly payment is a function of both the interest rate and the overall principal. And so both the buyer and the seller are suffering, and we risk seeing foreclosures, bankruptcies, and other economic problems that result. And this is all because governments flooded our economy with easy cash, inflated this asset price, and now are having to pull back suddenly to bring it right back down. This is majorly disruptive to our economy and to our country, and it's causing major suffering to ordinary, everyday people. So we're going to restore sound money. And this is how we're going to do it. One, I'm going to reinstate the Bank of Canada's traditional mandate that worked for 25 years, that it has one job and one job only, and that's to keep inflation at 2%, not to print money for politicians to spend. And that is the underlying problem, is the overspending. Overspending by government is the cause of the inflationary disease. $500 billion of deficits by the Trudeau government required the bank print this money, and then inflationary taxes made it more expensive for businesses to produce the goods and services that we all buy. We need to control spending. Right now, government spending is 30% higher than it was in the last year before COVID. Now, we were told that all the deficits that we were running were just because of COVID. Right? No choice. We can't do it anything else but to run big deficits. Well, it's true. We needed to fund income replacement for workers and businesses shut down by the state. But of the $500 billion in deficits in 2 years, 40% were totally unrelated to COVID, according to the Parliamentary Budget Officer. It's new discretionary spending. And as I said, now that COVID's behind us and all those COVID programs are gone, spending is 30% higher than it was before. In other words, the spending is not entirely COVID related. And even the COVID spending itself embedded countless examples of waste. They continued to pay out the CERB benefit, even when there were 1 million vacant jobs and economies were fully reopened. They sent CERB payments to prisoners who were behind bars and to public servants who were simultaneously drawing salaries. They tried to give $500 million to the We Charity. They spent $54 million on an ArriveCan app that we didn't need, didn't work, that wrongly sent 10,000 people into quarantine, even though they were vaccinated and negative tested. And this app could have been designed for $250,000, according to a group of programmers who replicated it in one weekend. So these are just examples of the excessive spending that flooded our economy with too much cash. So what are we going to do about it? Poilievre government is going to pass a law that requires politicians follow the same rules that you do. It's called the pay-as-you-go law. It works like this. The government wants to spend a new dollar that's not already budgeted for. They have to find a dollar of savings to pay for it. That's how single moms run their finances, right? Or the Jones family. If they want to have a new patio, perhaps they forego the vacation. Or they go down to the local lumber yard and see if there's some wood on sale, and they get a deal on their vacation so that they make both of those things work within the fixed family budget for recreation. Well, government should be no different. If politicians want to spend more on X, they should spend less on Y, or they should work to find a bargain on both X and Y. But yes. But there is no incentive to do that right now. None. And I'll tell you why. Because every creature in the universe has to live with something called scarcity. Whether it's the fish in the seas or the birds in the trees or the little microbe on the ground, they all have to make maximal use of limited resources. Every creature has to do that except for the politician, who always just passes on scarcity to everyone else, right? Because they can tax it, borrow it, or print it. But it doesn't eliminate scarcity for the sum total of us. It just redistributes it from the government onto the people. And that's what we've seen over the last several years. The great economist Thomas Sowell said, the number one rule of economics is scarcity. There's never enough supply to meet all of the demand. And then the number one rule of politics is to ignore the number one rule of economics, right? What I want to do is put that scarcity back where it belongs, on the politicians who are spending the money, so that they have to make the same trade-offs that everyday people make in their lives, the same either-or decisions, the same budget crunching efforts that businesses and families have done since the dawn of humanity. In other words, the Canadian people have been pinching their pennies for long enough. It's time the government in Ottawa started pinching its pennies too. And so that is the goal, is really to make the government small so the citizen can be big. To remember that in fact government is servant and the citizen is master, and not the other way around. That is what's so special about Canada and other countries that inherited our British parliamentary system. It is meant to give primacy to the common people, the everyday people, to do the nation's work. That's why the House of Commons is green, after all, because the first commoners met in the fields as they organized to progressively take more and more power away from the Crown and restore it to the people. And that is what we need to do here in Canada. Our government has become too big, too strong, and too arrogant. It has forgotten its role. And our job as citizens is to rise up and remind them, to replace them with a new government that will put you first, your paycheck, your savings, your home, your country. I want to put you back in charge of your life. Let's make this the freest nation on earth. Thank you very much. Great to be with all of you. Thank you.
Hi, Linda. First of all, congratulations being re-elected as a councillor. So what do you think about the yesterday's ceremonies?
Well, I was very pleased with the way that the ceremonies went yesterday. I'm very happy to see the decorum back at City Hall and working with a councillor that wants to work together. I think it's great news for the residents of Surrey.
And what do you think of Pierre Poilievre's speech today with the Surrey Board of Trade?
His speech was phenomenal. I think it was very relatable. He spoke his thoughts. It was very understandable. And I think he connected extremely well with the audience. And I really enjoyed some of his humor as well.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you very
so
much. Hello, Mary. Good to see you after a number of months. What's doing right now?
Well, right now, enjoying civilian life, but also enjoying seeing what's happening on the Canadian political scene. It's so great to have Pierre out here in Surrey and to have a new voice, a fresh voice, telling us what Canada can be.
And you federally conservative yourself, and what do you think about his meeting today?
Yeah, I'm not a member of the Conservative Party, but I've always voted Conservative and certainly been supportive. And I was very excited to hear Pierre's message today. This is the first time that I've heard Pierre give an entire speech. I've only heard clippings, and he's got the right knowledge base, he's got the right commitment, and he's really in touch with what Canadians want to see in their future.
So what are your next plans? You were a BC Liberal all your life, and now they're changing the name, the new leadership. What are your take on that?
Well, I think it's time that the BC Liberal Party had a new name. I hope that that's what the membership supports. We'll find that out because they're voting on it. But BC United, I think, as a name also reminds us that the BC Liberal Party has always been a coalition of federal Conservatives and federal Liberals. And I think it's helpful to see that in the name.
And you planning on obviously running again in the next election?
No. I'm done with that. That's for younger people to do, and there's many of them that I want to encourage to do that.
But normally politicians, they never say no. But what is next for Mary Pollock?
I know the rule is never say never, but I'll say never. I'm done, and I'm enjoying life with family and friends, and working in a job that I really love.
Oh, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you very
Good to
much.
see you, Mary.
Good to see you too.
Yeah. Came here, you're a member of Parliament from South Surrey, White Rock. What is your comments about the event today?
Good to see you again, CJ. It was so positive, so vibrant, actually. We had a very good turnout. And Pierre was talking about what he wants to do for the business community of Surrey and across the country. He wants to remove the gatekeepers. He said in Canada it's time for us to stop stopping and start starting, which I thought was a great line because there's so many gatekeepers. There's just, in Canada, we have one of the longest wait periods to get permits for building, for instance. We have to incentivize as a federal government, the provincial and on that topic, the municipal governments to get houses built, to do more. He also wants to release 15% of our government buildings into rental housing for people. Because it's not just about buying homes, it's about renting a home. And there's just so much we can do to unleash all that Canada has to offer. Get our energy out, get natural gas and liquefied natural gas going over to Europe and Asia. We are competing with countries that still use still use coal-fired plants with high emissions, but here in Canada we have the highest standards in the world. So we want to get our resources to market, we want to unleash that. Rare earth minerals was another topic that came up. Canada's the richest deposits of rare earth minerals, which we need for green economy and lithium batteries, things like that. Next to China, we're the biggest deposits here, and we're just not doing it. So there's just so much we can do to make life more vibrant. We're worried about people's paychecks. They're diminishing all the time. Inflation's too high because of unnecessary government spending. We all had to agree, and we did agree on some spending during the lockdowns because people needed some help. But it's all the other spending, the unnecessary spending that happened before and is still happening now. New budget or new economic update came out last week, yes. Up to 40 billion in new spending. We have said, stop raising taxes and stop spending. If a minister has a program and they want to spend money, they should have to give up something so that it's neutral. People can't afford it. So it was great. I thought the reception was great. People were enthusiastic. And
you did well?
I thought he did very well, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. You just sworn in as a mayor of Surrey. So that's a good news. How you feel about yesterday's event?
You know, it was a really lovely event. There was over 500 people that came to City Hall to participate, and so that was wonderful. And I think there is a new air in City Hall. We met with staff today, and it was just really wonderful. So I'm happy.
So you have a big task on your hand in a press conference and scrum yesterday. We talked about like bringing RCMP back and then a lot of changes, the ethics commissioner bringing back. So there's a lot of big tasks. How you feel about it? You think you will able to deliver it?
You know, I've been on the job for 3 weeks. Even though I was only sworn in yesterday, I've been on the job for 3 weeks. Absolutely, the Ethics Commissioner is in line to be back, I'm hopeful, within the month. In terms of the RCMP, they are the police of jurisdiction today, and they will be tomorrow. And so we will be presenting our report. I have already met with the federal government, both the Prime Minister and the Minister responsible. And in Victoria, I have met with Mr. Eby, and I will continue to meet with Mr. Farnworth. He asked us for a report. He will get his report. The first report will be there by September 14th. So we're excited and ready to go.
So what do you think about Pierre Poilievre's speech today?
I think it certainly resonated with the people here. You know, there's some very good messages that he had to say, and that's about letting business do business, letting people live their lives, and I think that's important. I think the whole issue around businesses being encumbered by government is something we all have to be cognizant of, and certainly for us in Surrey, I've talked about reducing red tape for building permits, and we will continue to go and move down that track.
And when is the next session of the council, when is sitting to get all these things moving forward?
November 14th is our first real, if you will, meeting, and that will be next Monday. So, yeah.
Congratulations and best wishes.
Thank you, CJ.
ਅੱਜ ਸ਼ੈਰਟਨ ਗਿਲਫੋਰਡ ਸਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਪੋਜੀਸ਼ਨ ਲੀਡਰ ਕੰਜ਼ਰਵੇਟਿਵ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਲੀਡਰ ਪੀਅਰ ਪੋਲੀਐਵ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਰੀ ਬੋਰਡ ਆਫ ਟ੍ਰੇਡ ਦੀ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ 'ਚ ਆਡੀਅנס ਨੂੰ ਐਡਰੈਸ ਕੀਤਾ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਮੋਸਟਲੀ ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸ ਪੀਪਲ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਮੈਂਬਰਸ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ, ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਕਾਫੀ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਸ਼ੀਅਨ ਵੀ ਆਏ ਸੀ। ਤੇ ਇਸ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਮੇਨ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਅਟੈਕ ਸੀਗਾ ਟਰੂਡੋ ਤੇ ਲਿਬਰਲ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਤੇ, ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹ ਪੈਸੇ ਖਰਚ ਰਹੇ ਹੈ, ਓਵਰ ਸਪੈਂਡਿੰਗ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੈ, ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ। ਬਾਕੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋ ਐਮਿਸ਼ਨਸ ਹੈ, ਇਨਵਾਇਰਮੈਂਟ, ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕੀਤੀ। ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਹ ਗੇਟਕੀਪਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੱਖੇ ਆ, ਵਿਚੋਲੇ ਰੱਖੇ ਆ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕੱਢਣ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈਗੀ ਹੈ। ਤੇ ਇਕੋਨਮੀ ਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਕੰਟਰੋਲ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਇਹ ਸਰਟਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਐਫਰਟ ਕਰਨੇ ਪੈਣੇ ਆ। ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਕੌਮੈਂਟ ਸੀਗਾ ਕਿ ਬੈਂਕ ਆਫ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਨਾਲ ਕੋਆਰਡੀਨੇਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਨਫਲੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਉਹਨੂੰ 2% ਤੇ ਲਿਆਉਣਾ ਆ। ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਖਾਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹਾਊਸ ਅਫੋਰਡੇਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਆ, ਉਹਨੂੰ ਮੈਨੇਜ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਰਮਿਟਸ ਹੈ ਉਹਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਟਾਈਮ ਲਾਈਨ ਕੱਟ ਕਰਨੀ ਚਾਹੀਦੀ ਹੈ। ਮੇਰੇ ਖਿਆਲ ਹਰ ਪੋਲੀਟੀਕਲ ਅਦਾਰਾ ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲ ਕਰ ਰਿਹਾ। ਉਹ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਲਾਂਕਿ ਇਹ ਮਿਊਨਿਸਪਲ ਮੁੱਦਾ ਆ, ਪਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਗੌਰਮੈਂਟ ਉਹ 'ਚ ਇਨਵੋਲਵ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ, ਫੰਡਿੰਗ ਦਿੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਇਨਫਰਾਸਟਰਕਚਰ ਦੇ ਲਈ, ਤਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸੁਣਨਾ ਪੈਂਦਾ। ਸੋ ਇਵੈਂਟ ਵਾਜ਼ ਵੈਰੀ ਵੈਲ ਅਟੈਂਡਡ ਐਂਡ ਵੈਰੀ ਵੈਲ ਸਪੀਚ ਗਿਵਨ ਬਾਈ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਪੋਲੀਐਵ, ਐਂਡ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਫਿਰ ਸਪੀਚ ਫਿਨਿਸ਼ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਸਟੈਂਡਿੰਗ ਓਵੇਸ਼ਨ ਦਿੱਤਾ। ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਕਾਫੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਕਸੈਸਫੁਲ ਰਿਹਾ। CJ Sidhu reporting from Surrey, British Columbia.